Hello friends, welcome to Hybrid Academy and to the next and final session of Learn Adobe Photoshop for Beginners. In today's session, that is lesson 8, we will see how to edit a photograph in Adobe Photoshop as a professional. So in this session, we will learn some final photograph editing techniques which the professional photographs use to edit the clicked shots. This session is also going to be a sort of revision of all the tools we have learned so far in all previous sessions. So let's go ahead and quickly start our session and learn photograph editing in Adobe Photoshop. Photograph editing is the act of altering an image. But that's oversimplifying a subject that can be complex and employs different methods and tools. For example, some photo editing techniques are done manually, while others are conducted through automated softwares like Adobe Photoshop. Photo editing can be used to fix any mistakes or inconsistencies in a photo or to improvise the quality of subject. It doesn't matter if the photo was taken with the camera phone or DSLR. Photo editing softwares like Photoshop allows you to enhance colors, clip out objects, or remove unwanted elements from the image. Most important point while editing a photograph is that it should not lose its reality and actual ambience. Let's see some example photo editing in Adobe Photoshop. So this is the first example image where a medicine box has been shot, and the picture which we have on the screen is the raw shot. That is, it has never been edited. It is the raw shot which has been captured by the camera. So let's see what all editing is required on this particular box or on this particular product before the final shot comes out. So the first thing which we'll do is we'll create a copy of this layer so that later on we can compare the original picture with the edited one, and we'll do all the editing in this copied layer. So the very first thing which we'll do is the color correction. So we'll set the levels of this picture. Secondly, if you can see, there is a small torn mark on the top right corner of the box. So let's try to remove this. So these are some things which are actually not looking good. So we'll try to improvise this. Take some piece from here and can try to overlap. I've taken the eraser. We can use the smudge tool. Expand this. Again use the eraser. So this is how we can cover that corner. So if I remove this part, you can see how it was torn before, and now it is somewhat repaired. Now we will remove the small white spots. For that we can use the patch tool or the spot healing tool. Now if you look at this particular edge, you can see that the top edge is first of all having a curve over here, and secondly the back layer is somewhat white visible, which is not. So what we can do is we can either try to straighten this and we can remove that white section from the back. I'm inserting a white layer below the actual one so that the bottom one is not mixed with this. Let's take a cutout of the product. So now you can see the same product on a white background, and we have already cropped that back section of this box which was visible. Now let's try to remove these lines, which are these creases on the box which are visible. I think we can use the patch tool for this. Editing a picture is actually a mix and match of multiple tools at different things depending on the situation. Now if you look at this particular edge, first let's try to remove these creases and let's try to straighten this up. Now this is more or less done. Now one thing we'll also do is that we'll try to sharpen up the text using the sharpening tool. So that the text is a bit highlighted. I'm merging these two layers together now. Let's try to change some curves to increase the depth. And now this is the final output. Let's try to compare this with the original picture. So this was the original one and this is the edited one. I hope you can make out the difference in both of these. Let's try to export this, or we can even save as. I will save it as example1 ed.jpg. You should always keep the PSD file saved so that in future if you have to make any changes to the same PSD, you can do that. Now let's compare them on the screen. So here you can easily make out the difference between the original image, which is labeled as before, and the final edited image, which is labeled as after. So you can see that the background was initially gray, so we cropped out the picture, we made it white, and even the white spots were removed, the shape of the box was corrected, there was a torn corner which was rectified. So there was a lot of minor changes which was done, and even you can look at the colors of the picture, how bright and good they look in the final picture. So this was the first example. Now let's look at the second example in Adobe Photoshop. Now this is the second example of Photoshop image editing. Now overall this picture looks really good, but still we can find out few things which can be edited. Like we can definitely enhance the colors of this picture. We can do the color correction, and if we try to zoom in this picture, you can see that the face or the texture of the skin on the face is not as smooth as it should be. So we can do minor corrections in this to make this smooth. So let's see what all we can do. So first of all, we'll create a copy of the original layer so that later we can compare the original picture along with the edited one. Now what I will do is I'll create some random selection of the area on which I wish to work out. So let's first select the forehead of this model. I'll create a copy of this. We'll go to Filter, Blur, and we'll select Gaussian Blur. We'll reduce this. and you can see that the skin is becoming smooth as we apply the Gaussian blur. Similarly, we'll select other areas of this face. Just remember that we will not select the eyebrows or the eyes because these need to be in sharp mode or these need to be in focus. So whenever we apply a blur, that makes the subject out of focus and it doesn't look good. So especially the eyes and the lips, and the eyebrows, these are the areas which need to be in focus in case of models. So I'll apply this blur on the copy of this. So again I'll select some value for this, and you can see the skin texture has got changed. Let's select the rest of the area. I'm using the shift key on the keyboard to add selection. I'll again create a copy of this and we'll apply Gaussian blur. So now if I remove the original image, you can see this is the area which is selected and how I have applied the Gaussian blur. So let's merge these areas, these three layers together, and I'll use eraser to just clean out something which has spilled out on the areas where we need the focus, like the eyes, the lips. I'm using the eraser right now. I'll use the burn tool on the lips with maybe 50% or 40% exposure to darken them a bit so that later we can enhance the colors, and similarly on the eyebrows also. So now let's zoom it out. Now the next thing what we'll do is we'll merge these two layers again. So I've created a copy of those two layers and I've merged both the layers so that the original layers remain intact. And then I'll go to Image, Adjustment and Vibrance. I'll increase the vibrance of this picture. And I'll also increase the saturation by 1 or 2 points. So now if you look at this picture and you compare it with the original one, you can make out the difference, especially on the face. So this is the original face and this is the edited one. Let's compare these two pictures on the screen. So now you can see both the pictures side by side and you can compare both of them. You can see how the colors are enhanced, and if you zoom it up you can see how the texture of the skin got enhanced. It got smooth. So this is how we edited this picture. We didn't do much on this, but we simply enhanced the colors and we improvised the texture of the skin on the face. Now let's check another example of photo editing. So this is another example image for photo editing. This is a picture of a smoothie made of carrots and walnut. So the glass is already in focus and the rest of the things which were used to make this smoothie are out of focus. Let's see what all we can do in this picture to enhance or to edit this. So again, the very first step we'll do is we'll create a copy of this layer so that later we can compare the changes. So this is the second copy, and the very first thing which I'll do is I'll use the sharpen tool to make or to bring some things of this picture in focus. For example, these walnuts which are there on the top, and even this design of the glass and the edges of the glass, so that this properly comes into focus. Secondly, I'll use the sponge tool with saturation of around 50%, and we'll try to saturate few areas. The top of the smoothie, the tea coaster on which it is kept, and some carrots. Now we'll do some color correction. We'll increase the brightness a bit so that the colors look good, and we'll increase the depth. And the final thing which we can do is we can increase the vibrance to bring out the colors, and we'll increase the saturation a bit by maybe 4 points. So now let's compare this. So this is the original picture, which is a bit dull, and this is the edited one, which is bright and vibrant. So this looks good. Another thing what we can do is we can make the background a bit out of focus. So let's take out the glass roughly. I will inverse the selection. I'll create a copy of this. I'll go to filter, blur, and box blur. This will help me to blur out the selection which we did. So now you can see the background is a bit out of focus and getting blurred. So this is another enhancement which we can do, and I'll merge these two layers together. And now let's compare this with the original picture. Now let's compare these two pictures on the screen. So now you can compare both the pictures. The left one is the original picture, which was raw and not edited, and the second one is the edited picture. You can see how the colors are enhanced and how the glass is mainly in focus and the rest of the picture is out of focus. So this is how we edit the pictures. So let's check one or two more examples on this. So this is another example picture. This is the close-up shot of a model, and if you observe this very closely, you can see there are small spots on the face, and also there is a tape which is pasted on the face to change the shape of the eyebrow. Now this could have been covered with the help of makeup, however it was not done, so let's do it with Photoshop. So we will clean the face, we will clean the texture, the makeup shine, these spots on the face, and we'll also try to remove this tape from the face. Let's see how we can do this. So the very first thing we'll do is that we will use the spot healing brush tool to remove the spots. Now this is very small, let's make it a bit bigger one. Before doing that, I'll just create a copy of the first layer so that we can later on match or we can compare both things. So I'm removing the spots now. So you can see I've removed all the spots which were very much visible initially, but now they are gone. Now, second thing, let's try to remove this tape from the face and from the hairs. Let's see how we can do this. So for the face, we can try to use the patch tool. We'll select the face area with the tape, and then we can use the patch tool to maybe replace this with a similar sort of skin. So you can see that this is now that much not visible as it was earlier. Similarly, let's try to do this for the hairs also. No, it's not working, so let's try some other method. We'll use the stamp tool clone stamp tool. So we'll take the texture from here and we'll try to replace it gradually. We can also use the healing brush tool. And again we'll try to use the patch tool. So now you can see the tape is somewhat removed. You can try doing this till the time we get the desired texture. Now let's try to remove this skin texture and shine like we did in the previous example. So we'll select some selective areas based on the color tone. For example, this is a bit lighter tone. So we'll create a copy of this and then we'll try to apply some Gaussian blur on this. Similarly, this is the shine. So there are two ways of applying the Gaussian blur. We can either create a copy of this or we can fill this up with somewhat similar color, maybe the lighter tone, and we'll create a new layer. We'll fill this up with the selected color and now we'll apply the Gaussian blur on this. So now you can see there is a small edge, so we can use the eraser to remove that edge. And then we can reduce the opacity to match the skin tone. Now if you see, this was the original thing and this is what we have applied onto that. So the shine is a bit less. So now now let's first merge all these three and let's see what's there. See, these are the two patches which we applied. Let's patch this area again. Now you can see the shine is completely gone. Now there's a small shine on the nose as well. Let's try to remove this as well. This is the last segment. Applying too much of Gaussian blur would actually flatten the image, so we don't have to apply too much of this. But yes, a bit of it to remove the shine. So that's it. Now let's merge these two and let's see what all. So you can see there are small patches here and there. So last thing, we'll use the eraser to remove these blur from the areas where we need bright sharpness, like eyes, eyebrows, and of course lips. Now we'll create one last final blur for the complete face. Face has a bit of texture. We'll remove the eyes and the eyebrows from this. And now we'll apply one more Gaussian blur to the selection, just to smoothen the skin texture. So these are the areas which I have removed from Gaussian blur, and the rest of the areas will apply blur and Gaussian blur. But we'll first create a layer from this, and onto this layer we'll apply the Gaussian blur. That's too much. Let's merge these and again apply eraser on the areas which we want to be sharp. Now we'll create a copy of these two layers and we'll merge them so that we get the final picture. And now we'll apply some color corrections on this to increase the depth. We'll also reduce the yellowness of this picture because I think it's too warm. And finally we'll use a sharpen tool just to make some areas of the face a bit more sharp and in focus, especially the eyes and the lips. So this is the final picture. Let's compare this with the original one. So this was the original one and this is the edited one. Let's compare these two on the screen. And I would also request you to please do share your comments on this, that which one do you like, the original one or the edited one. So you just saw how we edited this picture of the close-up face. We removed the spots on the face, we cleared the shine which was there on the face, and we also improvised the texture of the skin. We removed the tape which was there on the skin and on the hairs. And we also saw that we might have to use same tool multiple times or even different tools in different conditions and requirements. At times the same tool works in one particular condition, but at a different condition we might have to use a different tool. So depending on the requirement or depending on the kind of change required on the screen or on the picture, we use different tools. And finally we get the output picture, which is the edited one. Let's see one more example of editing the picture, and trust me, it will be an interesting one. So this is the final example, and as you can see, this is the raw shot which is not edited yet, and it has all behind the scenes. You can see the threads through which all different parts of this burger are hanging, and it actually shows the behind the scene of a picture, like how these kind of pictures are shot, that things are being hanged from threads and then shot and then again Photoshop edited to remove the threads from the picture. So let's see how we'll remove these threads. That's the first editing which is required in this picture, removing the threads. And of course then we'll enhance the colors and we'll make other changes to this, but the very first priority is to remove the threads. Let's start it. So we'll zoom out different parts first, and then one by one we'll remove the threads. So again, the very first thing we'll do is we'll create a copy of the original layer so that later we can compare it. And removing the threads from the background, this should not be much difficult, because there we can use the patch tool to remove the thread. Let's see if it works. Yep, it works. It works well. Now if you go down the close-up of each thread, you can see that it's actually not matching the burger edge. So let's try to use the spot healing brush tool to match this edge first. Now let's try to remove this from the burger surface. It works. So this spot healing tool is working much better as compared to the patch tool, and you can see how easily the thread is getting removed. Wow, this works great. This is how we'll remove all the threads. Okay, we are done. We have removed all the threads, and now you can actually see all the parts of this burger floating in the air, just as it was expected. Now let's do some color correction using the levels. This provides some extra depth to the picture. And we will also add some curves to this. Lastly, let's add some vibrance. And a couple of points of saturation. So this is our final shot. Now let's try to compare this with the actual shot. See, this was the actual shot which was having threads and which was a bit dull. Now the colors of this shot has actually come up very well, and even the threads are gone and all different parts of burger are hanging and floating in the air. So this is how we do editing. This was the last and final example. Hope you liked the video. Let's compare these two pictures on the screen. So here, while doing this editing, we got to know that at times we have to remove the behind the scenes things from the picture, like we remove these threads from the picture, and how we can enhance the colors and how the final shot comes up. So this was all about editing the pictures, how under different conditions and under different requirements we do different sorts of editing in our pictures, and how the raw shots are edited to generate the final shots. So this was the end of the complete Photoshop tutorial. Going forward, I'll share individual videos on different Photoshop techniques, on how you can improvise your pictures and how you can edit and make your pictures look better using Photoshop. So in this session, we saw different examples of different Photoshop editing techniques, and we learned how under different conditions and different requirements we use different tools multiple times, or we use the same tool multiple times to make our picture look better. As I told before, this was the final session of Adobe Photoshop tutorial, and going forward I will be sharing some more examples, some more editing techniques from time to time, so that you stay in touch with Photoshop and you keep editing and making your pictures look better.
Thank you for joining the complete session. Hope you like the content. Please share and subscribe our channel so that your friends also get benefited with the information, acquire free knowledge and learn new things. We are eagerly looking forward to your support. Thanks, take care and stay safe.